Welcome, thrill seekers, to a world of spine-chilling tales and hair-raising adventures. Gather around for a frightful journey into the unknown as we delve deep into the realm of scary stories. Buckle up, hold on tight, and get ready to experience a rush of terror like never before. The Arctic tundra is a harsh and unforgiving environment where the wind whips across the barren landscape and the cold bites deep into the bones. But for the team of scientists who had come to explore its frozen wasteland, it was a place of wonder and discovery. The team had come to study the effects of climate change on the Arctic ecosystem. They were a group of experts from various fields, ranging from botanists to geologists to meteorologists. They had been working together for months, and they were all excited to see what they could learn from the tundra. But as they set up camp on the frozen tundra, they began to realize that something was not right. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, and there was a feeling of unease that hung over the camp like a dark cloud. Despite their misgivings, the team pressed on with their work. They studied the permafrost, taking core samples and measuring the depth of the frozen earth. They collected samples of plants and animals, analyzing them for signs of stress or adaptation to the changing climate. As the days passed, the team began to notice strange occurrences around the camp. Equipment would go missing, only to be found in strange places. Footprints appeared in the snow, leading off into the wilderness, but when the team followed them, they would disappear into thin air. One night, as the team huddled around the campfire, they heard a strange noise coming from the darkness beyond. It was a sound like nothing they had ever heard before, a deep, rumbling roar that seemed to shake the very ground beneath their feet. The team quickly grabbed their flashlights and set off into the darkness, determined to find the source of the sound. But as they made their way across the frozen tundra, they realized that something was following them. They could hear its heavy footsteps crunching in the snow, and they could feel its cold breath on the backs of their necks. They tried to run, but the thing was too fast, too powerful. And then, they saw it. It was an abomination, a creature of unearthly proportions. It stood over 10 feet tall, with skin as pale as snow and eyes that glowed like hot coals. Its massive claws dug into the frozen earth, leaving deep gouges in the ground. The team froze, paralyzed with fear. They had never seen anything like this before. It was like something out of a nightmare, a creature that had no place in the natural world. And then, it lunged. The team scattered, running in all directions. They could hear the creature's heavy breathing behind them, its claws digging into the ground as it pursued them across the frozen wasteland. As they ran, they realized that the creature was hurting them, driving them towards a large crevasse in the ice. They tried to fight back, but their weapons were useless against the creature's massive size and strength. And then, they were falling. They tumbled into the icy crevasse, their screams echoing off the walls. They could hear the creature's laughter above them, its voice taunting them as they fell deeper into the darkness. When they finally hit the bottom, they found themselves in a cavern of ice, the walls glistening with an unearthly light. They were trapped, with no way out. As they huddled together, shivering with fear and cold, they realized that they were not alone in the cavern. They could hear something moving in the darkness, something that sounded like the creature that had pursued them. And then, they saw it. The creature emerged from the shadows, its massive form filling the cavern with its presence. It was even more terrifying up close, its glowing eyes fixated on the group. It let out another rumbling roar, and the cavern shook with its power. The team huddled closer together, trying to shield themselves from the creature's gaze. They knew that they were no match for it, that they were completely at its mercy. But then, something strange began to happen. The walls of the cavern began to glow with an unearthly light, and the air grew thick with a strange energy. The creature let out a howl of pain, its massive form writhing in agony. The team watched in amazement as the creature began to shrink, its skin turning a sickly shade of green. As the creature shrank, it began to take on a human shape, its massive claws receding into normal-sized hands. And then, it was gone, replaced by the man who looked like he had been trapped in the ice for centuries. The man was haggard and thin, his eyes wild with fear and confusion. He looked around the cavern in bewilderment, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The team cautiously approached the man, trying to offer him comfort and assistance. They wrapped him in blankets and gave him hot soup, trying to warm him up after his long imprisonment in the ice. As the man regained his strength, he began to speak. He told the team a strange tale of a group of explorers who had come to the Arctic many years ago. They had been searching for something that they believed would change the course of human history. The man had been one of the explorers, and he had been one of the lucky ones to survive the ordeal. The rest of his group had perished, victims of the same creature that had pursued the team. The man told the team that the creature was not of this world, that it was a being from another dimension that had somehow found its way to Earth. He said that it had been summoned by the explorers, who had been attempting to harness its power for their own purposes. But the creature had proved to be too powerful, and it had turned on its creators, killing them all and trapping the man in the ice. The team listened to the man's story in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the horror that he had experienced. But as they looked around the cavern, they realized that the man was telling the truth. The walls of the cavern were covered in strange symbols and markings, and there was a strange energy that filled the air. It was as if the creature had left its mark on the very fabric of the tundra. The team knew that they had to leave the tundra as soon as possible to warn the world of the dangers that lurked there. They packed up their gear and helped the man out of the cavern, making their way back to civilization. As they left the frozen wasteland behind, they knew that they would never forget the unearthly abomination that had haunted them in the Arctic tundra. They knew that they had witnessed something that should have never been unleashed upon the world, and they could only hope that they had done enough to prevent its return. But as the team left the Arctic behind, they couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. They had the uneasy sense that they were being watched, that the creature was still somehow following them. Their fears were realized when they returned to their base camp, only to find it destroyed. The tents had been ripped apart, and their equipment had been scattered everywhere. And then, they saw the creature, looming over them, its eyes glowing with a fierce intensity. It let out a deafening roar, and the team scattered, running in all directions. They tried to fight the creature, but their weapons seemed to have no effect. It was as if the creature was immune to their attacks, and they could only watch in horror as it killed one of their own. Desperate, the team searched for a way to stop the creature once and for all. They pored over the ancient texts and markings that the man from the tundra had given them, trying to find a clue that would help them defeat the monster. Finally, they found what they were looking for, a ritual that would banish the creature back to its own dimension. It was a dangerous and complicated ritual, but the team knew that they had no other choice. They set to work, gathering the necessary ingredients and performing the complex series of incantations. The air crackled with energy, and the ground shook with the power of the ritual. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature was gone. The team stood there in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. But even as they breathed a sigh of relief, they knew that they would never be the same. The unearthly abomination had left its mark on them, and they would carry the memory of their encounter with it for the rest of their lives. As they made their way back to civilization, they knew that they had been lucky to survive. They also knew that they could never reveal the truth about what they had seen. No one would believe them, and the consequences could be disastrous. And so, the team kept their secret, quietly returning to their normal lives. But they never forgot the horror that they had experienced in the Arctic tundra, and they knew that they would always be haunted by the memory of the unearthly abomination that they had encountered. As the night draws to a close, we bid farewell to the terrors that haunted us and the spine-tingling tales that kept us on the edge of our seats. Remember, the darkness may linger, but the dawn always brings a new light. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and never stop exploring the mysteries of the unknown.